We last left our project after beginning the initial setup of Django Allauth. Let's finish that and test it in this video. I'll begin by logging out of the admin and stopping the development server. Before anything, we need to make a small correction to the urls.py file by adding a slash at the end of the accounts path to make sure it's included in the Allauth URLs and they're generated properly. For this video, we're going to start again in settings.py. Since by default, Allauth will send confirmation emails to any new accounts, we need to temporarily log those emails to the console so we can get the confirmation links. To do that, we can set the email backend setting to django.core.mail.backends.console.email backend. I'm also going to paste in some additional settings from the completed project and explain what each one does. The account authentication method is what tells Allauth that we want to allow authentication using either usernames or emails. These three email settings here make it so that an email is required to register for the site. Verifying your email is mandatory so we know users are using a real email, and they're going to be required to enter their email twice on the registration page to make sure that they haven't made any typos. Finally, we're setting a minimum username length of 4 characters and specifying a login URL and a URL to redirect back to after logging in. I'm going to change the login redirect URL to /success only temporarily, even though this URL doesn't exist, and you'll see why in a moment. With all these settings complete, the only thing left to do is test it. In order to test whether Allauth is working properly, I'm going to run the server with Python 3 manage.py run server and open the project, and then navigate to /accounts/login. I'll attempt to log in using the super user we created earlier. And you'll see that this directs us back to a page telling us we need to confirm our email. So we know Allauth is working because email confirmations are now required in order to log in. The only problem here is that we created this user before installing Allauth, so we need to create and confirm an email manually. To do that, I'm going to log into the admin and open the email address model that was set up when we ran the migrations that came with Allauth. Notice that this model is under the Accounts app, which specifically is the Allauth Accounts app that we added to installed apps. You'll see there's also a Social Accounts app here, and you can see the Sites framework that comes from adding django.contrib.sites to our installed apps. So opening the email address model, I'll click Add Email Address, select my username, enter an email, and select both verified and primary to convince Allauth that we verified the email. Saving that, let's log out and head back to the login page to see the difference. Now, when we log in with the super user, we get a 404 page not found, but that's actually a good thing if you look closely because we're actually at the /success URL. That means that our login system redirected us back to the login redirect URL in settings.py, which confirms that authentication is working properly. At this point, I'm going to go back to settings.py and change the login redirect URL to just /, which means upon logging in, we'll just be redirected to the home page of our store. It looks like everything's working correctly so far, so let's freeze the requirements of our project with pip3 freeze requirements.txt. With all that finished, there's one more thing I want to do before we commit our changes, and that is to get our templates directory set up so we have a place to start writing some front-end code. Let's type make dir templates and make dir templates / Allauth, which will hold our customized Allauth templates. Finally, I'm going to commit my changes with git add dot git commit -m setup Allauth and git push. In the next video, we'll get our homepage set up and begin customizing the login functionality.